everybody. Welcome to Introduction to Microbiology. I'm your professor, Lauren Yost. I'm here to walk you through the course so that whenever you start to get started with the course, you have some kind of idea of what's going to be expected from you with your assignments and everything like that. So to start with, I'm going to basically walk you through Canvas and what the layout of my course is on Canvas so you can orient yourself there. And then we'll walk through the actual assignments and what's literally expected of you from the assignments for the course. So to start with, this is your home page for the course on Canvas. And you can see here that we're starting with our recent announcements. I have the 5 most recent announcements posted here. And of course, it's going to differ from day to day. All of my announcements on whether or not a class is postponed, all of my announcements on weather advisories, or if I'm not able to make it to class, or if I'm going to be late, everything like that's going to be posted in my announcements. So please be sure that you are getting email notifications based on the announcements that I post here, because that is where I'm getting that information. Additionally, be sure that you are checking your OK State email regularly, because that is where these announcements are going to be sent to you to notify you of whenever there's any changes or anything like that relating to that. So the announcements are incredibly important for this course. I update all the time, very, very regularly here, and it is where you're going to be hearing from me. It should be going to your email as well, so be sure that, like I said, that is in fact set up correctly for you on Canvas. So that's the main home page. On the left-hand side, we have basically, if we were looking at this as a student, let me pull that up real quick. You're going to be looking at, you can reach your announcements there on the left side as well. And next you would see your syllabus. And I have pulled up the syllabus over here. I'm not going to go through the whole thing here. That is your responsibility to read through this and see what is required of the class. But we're going to talk about the major structure of the class as we're going through this anyway. So but be sure you do read this. There is a quiz that is required in order for you to open up your modules. We're going to talk about that in a second. That states basically some information. You'll answer some questions about the syllabus, as well as just verifying that you've read it, that you've understood it, that you've had your any questions that you have about the syllabus, they've been answered by the instructor, and that you understand your role as a student and you are complying with academic integrity and misconduct rules set forth by the university. So that's all going to be associated with that. If you click on assignments, then you would see, once it loads, all of the assignments. I have it here organized by date. And if I pull up my little here, show by date. You can also organize it by type. So if you're looking for specific items. This student that I'm showing you the example of is a hybrid student. So they have hybrid evidence they have to have. We'll talk about what that is in a moment, but as well as some quizzes and things that are due by the 17th. So they have these 6 things that are due by the 17th. If you are in my in-person class, you will only have these quizzes due by the 17th. And that's because the hybrid people, they don't attend my class. And we have assignments that are going to be taking place in person in the actual in-person traditional courses that will be accommodating that same exact credit for them. That's basically incorporated in the attendance. So it's still participation based. Anyways, so that's the assignments. You could also see what is due if you go over to basically the right side of the screen over here on the far right, where it has the to-do list. We have all of our assignments that would be due coming up listed over there. So you can keep track of that in that fashion as well. So that's the basic layout of how this is structured. So that is fine. That's how you want to follow through the course. The course is also set up to be more intuitive if you follow through the modules. If you click on modules, you will see the modules laid out for the course. And for our online students, this is probably going to be the most helpful format for working through the content. So we have our first up module. You have to complete all the required tasks in this module in order to open up the rest of the course. So as a student, quote unquote, that I'm showing you here, I've already done that. So it's opened up the course, but for you, there wouldn't be a green check mark over here on the far right. There'd be a little red circle with a line in it, basically saying that you haven't completed everything that's required to open it up. It does tell you what you need to complete to open it up. You have to complete the syllabus quiz. So here I've said, you must complete this to open the course. You must open the lab safety document. Again, you must read this to open the course. Now, I can't tell that you actually read the whole thing. Right, so, but you have to open it at the very minimum. And the video, you must watch it to open up the rest of the course as well. Feel free to watch the videos on whatever speed that you find most effective for you. It doesn't have to be in the 1x. If it's 1.25, if it's 1.5, if it's 2x, I don't care. But please try to at least skim through the videos, the lecture videos, the lab orientation videos, whatever it is. Please just at least try to skim through them. Or read the transcripts of them on YouTube, whatever works for you. But you do want to try to, because I would quiz you over some of this stuff sometimes. So be aware of that. So you have to at least open these, quote unquote. All right. So that's the requirement with those. We also have our Respondus lockdown browser test. If you were to open this, it's going to require that you use lockdown browser. So be aware of that when you click on this. You'll have to have lockdown browser installed. If you don't, it'll prompt you to install it. And then you will take this quiz with lockdown browser on. You can't open up anything else while that's going. This is just to make sure that you can take quizzes for my course using lockdown browser on your device. You should be able to retake this. If you're having any issues with that, just let me know and I'll try to fix that for you. But since all of my tests take place through lockdown browser in person, you'll have to bring your laptop or your tablet with you in person on our exam days and you'll have to work there in the classroom. I don't want you having any of those issues on exam day. You're already going to be stressed enough. So I don't need you having any more stress dealing with technology issues. So that's what this quiz is here for, just to test and make sure that your laptop or tablet is going to work with lockdown browser in a crunch, right? Whenever it comes down to having to take the exams and stuff. Outside of that, that's all you would have to complete for this in order to open up the rest of the course. So if you completed the syllabus quiz, if you have opened up your lab things, the document as well as the video, and then you have completed your lockdown browser quiz, the rest of the course should open up for you. The first module you'll see is the note-taking skills module. This is entirely optional. If you do complete this modules, we have a video here and then 2 PDFs, my bare minimum of what I'm expecting for you to do to study effectively for this course is listed in the bare minimum study plan. You're not going to think it's bare minimum, but if you want to do well in the class, I promise you it's the bare minimum. And then we have, of course, I'm going to say that, right? But I stand by that wholeheartedly. And then we have the taking it further. If you want to do even better in the course and really understand the material and gain what you're supposed to from the course, then this is the study kind of sheet for that. It'll give you some advice on other things you can do to take it further. And then we have a quiz. It's going to quiz you over things that happened in these other 3 things. If you complete the quiz and get this whole module taken care of, I will replace one of your chapter quiz grades with a 10 out of 10. I don't think I've ever had any student get all 10 out of 10s on their quizzes. And plus, even if you did, then your last one wouldn't have to do it if you did your note thing. So it's just one more way to help you bring the grade up, maybe just a little bit, but it is something. And most of you guys probably don't have the best study habits anyways. I'm just saying that's been my perception teaching, is that most people don't really know how to study effectively. And so here's my tools here for you to help you with that. So now we've got that out of the way. And again, you can do that at any point in the whole course. You can do that at the very end if you want to, or you can do it in the beginning. It's not going to block you from doing anything. This is entirely optional. Do it whenever you want to. And once you get it done, it'll replace your lowest quiz score with a 10 out of 10. All right, so we have our units laid out here, units 1 through 4 for our lecture portion of the course. And then we have the lab module. So everything you need for the lab is just in lab. And we have some other helpful resources that just come along with the course, including a little video. There's a video down here, a guide, or it's not a video, it's a file that will step-by-step walk you through how to make videos in PowerPoint, especially if you are in my online or my hybrid class. Your lecture projects, you might want to submit them in a recording format, and you can do that through PowerPoint while you're like walking through your PowerPoint lecture. You can do that all in PowerPoint, and that walks you through how to do that if you're interested. Aside from that, our lecture content is divided up as so. The first link that we have on here is our study sheet. This study sheet, if you click on this, will show you literally everything I can possibly test you over on my exam. This is everything I could test you over. Now, having said that, I expect you to actually understand the material on this study sheet. So it isn't enough just to say, okay, protein structure levels, primary is amino acid sequence. If you don't know what an amino acid sequence is, what an amino acid is, how they're linked together, why they would affect one another, why different amino acids would affect one another, or anything like that. If your understanding of what that even means in the concept of like how the next levels of our protein structure relate to one another, then that's not enough information to get you an A on the test, because I'm going to ask you questions that involve applying the knowledge of and the understanding of this content, not memorizing these words. If you plan on taking this course and depending entirely on memorization, on flashcards, on Quizlets, that it's just word recall, you will not get an A in this course. 100% guaranteed. I mean, you want to test that, you go right ahead, but I'm going to expect you to understand and apply these concepts. So when you come to my class or when you're watching one of my recorded lectures, I would expect you to look at the study sheet and make notes on each of these bullet points to the degree that you understand them enough that you could explain them to me if I asked you to. So that's the type of notes you should be taking in my class. Go through the study sheet, go through each bullet point, make notes on each bullet point if you need to. That would help explain the content well enough that you could understand it well enough to explain it back to me if I asked you to. And that's how you should be studying for this course. And after you have, major notes on these, reorganize them and reformat them into like 1 or 2 sheets front and back. And then that is all you should have to review for that chapter. Make some flashcards on terms that you would need to know the actual wording for, but that's actually all the flashcards should be doing for you. You're also probably going to be oversetting your flashcards and repeating them, but I have plenty to say on that in my note-taking videos. So you can learn about that at your own, sure. But that's basically the study sheets. And so I will not be pulling questions from any other concepts outside of the study sheet, but you need to understand the concepts in the study sheets well enough that you would be able to understand basically critical thinking questions relating to that content. Just saying. All right, so now that we have that out of the way, we have our lecture content links. So I'm not going to click on these first 2 because they're pretty short. So I'm going to move down to chapter 2 lecture content, the chemistry of biology, right? So we'll click on that. If you are my hybrid student, this is where you would go to find your pre-recorded lectures. These are from past actual lectures in my in-person courses. Sometimes this changes from semester to semester. So this may have more content being covered than is on your study sheet. Please refer to your study sheet. If I talk about something in the video that is not on your study sheet, guess what? I'm not going to test you over it. Congratulations. But just don't worry about the stuff that isn't on your study sheet. And so these videos are here for those of you who are relying on the lectures. I will also post current lectures on the site as well. And we don't have any on here for me to show you because this class hasn't started yet. But eventually, underneath, we were just looking at chapter 2. So underneath chapter 2 slides, I will have current recordings from my lectures. And I will record every single lecture that I give and post them on here as they are recorded and updated. So that I remember to record them. I mean, there might be occasions now and then, rarely, where I might forget. So my apologies ahead of time. But there should be recordings for every lecture that I give. So you can pick and choose whichever lecture that you like. If you like my Monday, Wednesday morning lectures instead of my more brief run-throughs on my evening courses, then pick what you like and watch what you like based on that. And so that'll all be there for everybody to see, not just my online people. Everybody will have access to all of this stuff. So anyways, the slides are updated slides for this semester and should correlate pretty well with your study sheets. So you shouldn't have too much extra information on the slides compared to your study sheets that you might have in my pre-recorded lectures, and then our current lectures will be even more succinct. Anyways, so that's basically the layout for the actual lecture portion. If you're in my in-person classes and my actual traditional courses, then we will start our day with, if this was our chapter 2 day, we're going to lecture on chapter 2 today, then I would start off with a Kahoot on chapter 1 or chapter 3. So these are Kahoot quizzes that I have through the Kahoot website. You will need your computer or your tablet or your phone in order to participate in these, and you will have to log in at least the first time. It should remember after that with your OK State email address, and that just logs that away so that I can count you as present for that activity as my actual student. So you're not just like dog friend 1 on there. I don't know who dog friend 1 is, so it's going to tie it with your actual OK State so I can keep track of you and make sure that you're actually participating in these activities. So be aware of that, but it's going to ask for that every time on its own, so you won't have to remember to do that. It'll do that for you. Anyway, so we'll have these Kahoot quizzes. If you came in for chapter 2's lecture, we'll start off with chapter 1 and or 3 Kahoot in order to review that information that we learned in the last lecture. Then we will start in with chapter 2's lecture. We usually finish with some sort of relevancy video. It's like 5 to 10 minute long video, and I might even play it on faster speed just to show you how it relates to the actual usually healthcare community or vet or your actual just literal community, and how these topics are tying in with all of that. And that's what you would see in a typical lecture setting. So these Kahoots are usually in my in-person classes used for review, but if you're in my hybrid class, you would do this as your like participation effort. In my traditional classes, you'll get participation effort too. And when we do those review Kahoots, I just use that as, you don't get credit for right or wrong answers. It's all participation based. So once your email address logs into that, that's part of your like just participation / attendance too. So attendance / participation, right? So there's that. So that's how those are different between my hybrid and my traditional classes. Other than that, everybody has quizzes that are due for each chapter. If we learn about on day 1, chapters 1 and 3, and the next day, the second day in that week, chapter 2, then at the very, very end of that week on Friday by 11:59 p.m. or midnight, basically, on that Friday at the end of that week, you have the quizzes from every chapter we did that week due. And it'll pop up in your due date on your to-do list or your assignments for that. And we already saw that when we were looking at our to-do stuff previously. So you should be keeping up with those assignments pretty easily. And that's pretty much it per chapter. And then at the end of the unit, we will have available to you study aids. I have audio shorts. These are 10 minutes or less clips on subjects that I've covered. So it's not the whole chapter that I'm talking about here. It'll be like a 10-minute, like, let's just say chemical bonds. You don't understand about the different chemical bonds, covalent bonds, ionic bonds, and hydrogen bonds. There's an 8-minute and 51-second video just talking about that. And so I have gone through and picked major topics from each of the chapters for the units. And if you don't understand what the organelles are for the eukaryotes, there's a 10-minute video on that. It's not a video, excuse me, it's a video, it's an audio clip. And that's all it is, it's just audio. So you can play through these at your leisure to review those topics. I also have, at the end of each unit, I have a Bloom's study challenge. This is just Bloom's based, so like it challenges the way you're thinking about things. For example, if we go to chapter 2, explain why water is considered the most important solvent of life. I don't know why I can't highlight just that area. Explain why water is considered the most important solvent of life. You're not necessarily going to find that directly in our study sheet, right? You're going to have to think about how you're going to answer that and then word it however you like. You're not going to get graded on this. This is entirely optional, and it's for your study purposes only. So those are available to challenge your understanding of the content as well. And I'm happy to go over any of your answers or understanding of any of these things out, you know, if you want to take time during my office hours or whatever. Every week I will have a review over whatever chapters that we covered. I'll cover the basic topics that we covered in those chapters, as well as the most missed topics in those chapters. I'll spend a little more time on give some example questions and answers and why the answers are correct and why the wrong answers are wrong. And we'll go over that every single week. And whatever other topic might be coming up that week, we might spend a little bit more time on, depending on what you guys ask for. But it's usually about an hour-long weekly review that we'll have on typically Fridays at 10 a.m., but we'll see what you guys will prefer and what my schedule is going to accommodate for that. Those will come up in the announcements, so be on the lookout for that. But that'll all be posted here for your reference for studying. I also have the extra credit opportunity for our hybrid people. Hybrid people, you will have to find the questions at the end of the basically slide set for each chapter. So at the end of each chapter, I have about 5 questions relating to the content. And they're pretty open-ended questions. Things like, what is the molecule that makes up a bacterial cell wall? And so your answer would be peptidoglycan. I'm not going to give you choices, right? You're going to have to find that for yourself. Short answer type stuff, and this should be relatively simple, but for the hybrid people, you're going to have to find those questions at the end of the chapter and comprise them all into like one document for unit 1, put the questions, put the answers, and submit it into this assignments in order to get your extra credit for that. For my in-person classes, basically those questions that are at the end of those chapters, I am going to be pulling names out of the cup. Yep, I'm going to be calling on your name. And you will be able to answer the questions the same 5 questions at the end of the chapter. You can prepare for those ahead of time if you have the questions already, like the slides pulled up, or you could just test your knowledge, what you learned in the lecture as we went, or you can pass. And if you choose to pass, you get 2 passes for the whole semester. But if you choose to pass after that, you forego your extra credit. If I call on you, and you've already used your 2 passes and you don't know the answer, you don't want to answer, you don't even want to try to answer, then you forego all of that extra credit. Period. There's no getting it back. So that's how that will work in my in-person classes. I'll be calling on you and expecting you to answer. Now, if I ask a random question in the middle of class, for example, we're talking about our bacterial cell walls, and I talk about what they're made of, and I continue to talk about the differences between the different kinds of bacteria based on that. And then I come back and say, oh yeah, by the way, what was that molecule that made up cell wall? Does anybody know? And you happen to remember it, that it was peptidoglycan, and you raise your hand, and I'm Joey Mendoza, and the answer is peptidoglycan. Whenever I get to the question asking part, and I'm asking something about what's the name of the group of bacteria that have the thick cell walls, what was the name for those, what were they called? And you don't know that, but you already answered the peptidoglycan question. I'm not going to call on you. Problem solved. So you're not going to have to answer those. So there's those opportunities as well in my traditional classes. So keep that in mind. But you will have an opportunity to get 1% extra credit based on that type of participation in my in-person classes. If you're online, again, you're going to have to find those questions and answer them and compile them into a document and submit them for every unit. So that is one possibility for extra credit. The other possibility is for completing everything in my course. So if you have no zeros, even if you take a quiz and you get a 0, because you answered me wrong, I'm sorry, but that is a severe lack of effort on your part to do well on that quiz. So I'm not, that's a 0, and I'm going to count it as 0, and you're not going to get your extra credit for completing the course. To me, that is a lack of trying. So it's at my discretion for extra credit. So for sure, I'm not going to be giving you extra credit for just clicking on answers and not trying to answer them correctly. My quizzes, like we saw here at the end, you have to do on Friday by midnight, that whole week's chapters, quizzes due. So those quizzes, it's just 10 questions. It is timed 15 minutes. It is not lockdown browser, okay? It's just a quiz that is timed. Once you start it, you have 15 minutes to finish all 10 questions. It's open book. Use whatever resource you want to. Work with your friends on it. I don't care. But get those quizzes done by midnight that Friday that we learn about those chapters, okay? So yeah, so there's that. So that's basically the setup for the chapter, the lecture stuff. There's also going to be, which isn't in my module yet, I'm going to be adding it in, the assignments. We have the unit projects. So I have to assign those individually to people. And so basically what it is, at the beginning of the semester, I'm going to post in the announcements, your name is Joey Mendoza. You got randomly selected to present on this topic in Unit 3. And on our Unit 3 presentation day, you will present on that topic. You will have 5 to 8 minutes to review that topic. I'll have examples that I will have given you that I will have made, so you will know what's expected of you. There's also outlined in the actual assignment what's expected of you, and there's a rubric that I'll use to grade all that. And we'll talk about that more when we get to it. For Unit 1, nobody is assigned Unit 1. I'm going to just do a demonstration for what I'm expecting of you guys for Units 2, 3, and 4. And then you'll be assigned your topics for units 2, 3, and 4. So be on the lookout for whatever topic you get. Yours might be in unit 2. Maybe you want to go first, and that's great. Maybe you don't, you want to go unit 4. You can switch with people, just as long as you switch with whoever you're switching with. You come to me and you have a person that you've already talked to and agreed to switch with. And once you switch, that is final. You may not go take backsies, none of that, okay? We can talk about that when we get closer to that. So we have that project that's involved in the lecture. So you have your Kahoot, which is usually a review of the previous chapter. If you're online, you can do that on whatever pace you like to do the Kahoot. Then we have the actual lecture portion that covers the information, and you need to know the stuff in the study sheet. Then we have the quizzes for that. And then of course we have the lecture for each unit. It's 50 questions, multiple choice on your computer, lockdown browser in person. If you're having issues with that, or you have some sort of accommodations or whatever, we might talk about putting you in the testing center, but we will do that when the date gets closer. Then we have the lab. The lab will start the second day of class. So if we start class on Monday, on Wednesday, we will have a lab. I have very strict attendance policy for my lab. That's dictated by the department, the science department, and not by me. If you miss 6 days of lab, you automatically fail my course. If you have missed 5 days of lab, I will send you an email letting you know you're about to fail my course if you miss another day. And I will give you contact information. Well, I'll contact the Student Success and Opportunity Center, the SSOC, and they'll contact you on ways to help you become engaged with the material again and make sure you're keeping on track with your course. And that can happen at any time in the semester if I'm at all concerned with your performance, and I will reach out to you. I'm very engaged with the success of my students, and you need to be anticipating that I'm not going to let you necessarily just flounder. At the same time, if I see that you are floundering and you're not asking for help, and I've reached out and you're still not utilizing any of the help that I've offered or asking for any other help and you're just drowning in it, I will let you drown, because most of you guys are going into healthcare, and if you're too afraid to ask for help from your superiors, then I don't want you to be my nurse. And I'm not going to let you. So I'll let you fail my class if that happens. I'm not afraid to say it. So be aware of that. Your success in my course is in your hands, and I'm absolutely here to help you every step of the way, as long as you're willing to reach out and ask for help or take my advice, or I don't know what to do. I'm not sure I understand how you're explaining this. Is there any other way that I can look this up or whatever? I will do everything I can to help you. I have driven to Tulsa to help students take exams when they couldn't make it in. Like, I will do whatever it takes to help with your success, as long as you're willing to help with your success. So keep that in mind too. For the lab, we have a digital lab manual that I have written myself. I was sick of you guys having to pay for some stupid thing that you're never going to use again, and such a waste of paper. So we have physical lab manuals in the lab that stay in the lab, and we have the digital one outside for your use, for studying and things like that. All of our labs, see here, we'll have our lab safety stuff, and we will have our labs. So this is our first lab exercise. This is the sheet that tells you everything you need to know about that lab exercise and why it's relevant. Then we have the procedure in the orange box. It's going to be step by step what we follow in the lab. We have this sideways thing here. It's a study sheet, and it has everything on it that you might need to study. You can see here, if you zoom on it, it's clearer, but that you might need to study for that. So this is our study sheet for this. Like, we have our unit study sheets for our lecture. This is our study sheet for the lab, and each exercise has their own little study sheets, nice and colorful and organized. And it has pictures because there's a lot of hands-on stuff in the lab. Then we have a question sheet associated with it. So there's 3 actual questions about the concepts on here, and then a grand rounds. Now, first one won't have grand rounds, because grand rounds involves going back and looking at the results of your peers. We don't have results on our first lab, right? We have to go to the second lab. Here's the info, here's the procedure, here's our study sheet, and then here is our question sheet for that. And you can see down at the bottom for our second lab, we have grand rounds to go and look at the results from our peers for the previous lab's experiment. And you will be graded on these based on accuracy and effort. And there's a rubric associated with this, with the assignment that this will be submitted under. But that's the basics of the labs. This is the digital one. In the in-person lab, I'll have a physical one. You can't write on the paper itself. These are in sheet protectors. You will write on these with dry erase marker, then take a picture of this, and then submit the picture for credit. if you are a person that really just wants to print out these and like write on them yourself, you are welcome to do that, but I do not require that in my class. I think it's a waste of paper to require people to do that. So you're welcome to just do the dry erase. I provide the dry erase markers. I provide the sheets and the sheet protectors. So, you need it to print it all out. Anyways, here's all the rest of the lab content. If you want to print out individual worksheets, they're here for you. We have a project in the lab that we start from day one. Basically, from day one, I'm giving you 2 unknown bacteria in the whole entire lab from day one. And every exercise we do from there, you're getting results on your unknown bacteria that we're going to collect in our unknown project chart, whether it's positive or negative for a test, or what color changes happened, or whatever. And then you're going to use that information to identify your organism with a key that I'll give you at the end. And that's the whole project. And I will walk you through it every step of the way as we go. So we'll go over that when we get into the lab. We have days set aside at the beginning as well as midway through, just to make sure everybody's keeping up well. So we'll have that. We have Kahoot quizzes. These are not participation based. These are accuracy based, and it is pre-lab quizzes. So if we're doing exercise 1 on Wednesday, right, the 15th or the 16th, depending on if you're Wednesday or Thursday, right? So those Kahoot quizzes, I'll quiz you on the stuff you're supposed to have known for that lab when you come in that day. So be prepared for that lab content as far as like what content you have to know when in your syllabus, as well as in the schedules that are posted online. We have the actual schedule for the lab. And so on the 15th, you'll have to know intro to lab and note taking. So I'm going to go over some note taking stuff. Like I said, you guys are probably terrible at it. Just take my word for it. And I'm going to go over some basics on that. And we're going to take a little quiz before we even talk about that, over some of that stuff. And mostly just going to be poll and that one's going to be participation based. It's probably not a good example. But the ones over the actual like lab exercises. So for the 27th, for exercise 1, I'm going to give you a Kahoot quiz about exercise 1. And on that first page for exercise 1 that we saw in our lab manual, here, this page, your quiz will come from this material. So I'll quiz you on that with the Kahoot. It's 10 questions and it is credit based for that. So the ones that are participation only, I'll let you know about that ahead of time. So that will be saved in the assignments and everything. And that'll keep track of your attendance for the lab, as well as actually give you credit points of 10 out of 10, stuff. Okay. Points. All right. So that's your pre-lab Kahoots. You also have your in-lab uploads. That's the pictures of those pages that you fill out in the lab that you'll upload into these assignments here. And this is just a list of all of them. So you could go to this and click on the thing, or you can, these are due weekly as well, just like the quizzes that were. So you would have this showing up in your assignments as well. So however you like to approach it, they're just available in 2 different ways. And then we have the post-lab quizzes. Again, they'll pop up in your to-do list, but if you wanted to, attack one of them specifically, you can come and find it here, or work ahead and just come find them here, however you like to work on. So that's all listed there for the lab. Then the lab project, you'll be able to click on that and read more about that and get the actual report form to fill that out as well. We have study guides that are not required. Again, basic study guides and questions about the concepts. We have our study sheets that are available within the actual lab manual that I showed you. So if you want to study from those, same idea as what we had with the study sheets with the lecture content. You need to understand that stuff and be able to apply it. And the lab exams, the lab midterm and the lab final, 50 questions. These will be on lockdown browser on your laptop or tablet. So bring those again for those. I'll have special areas set aside so you don't spill any of the cultures on your laptops and stuff. That will be your responsibility as adults to make sure you're taking care of your equipment properly. In the lab, we'll see how that goes. In the past, we've done Scantrons and it's just a pain in the butt. So let's just try with the computers this time. So keep that in mind. 50 questions will rotate between stations, and you'll just find that question set and then answer those questions on that station, and you'll be able to go back to whichever ones you want to go back to at the end to go and double check what questions you need to. So we'll go over those when we get closer, but that's the idea. My exams, the way that I'm grading them, Again, my lecture exams are 50 questions. They're all multiple choice. They're all on lockdown browser. And the first exam for the lecture, the unit 1 exam, is worth 6% of your grade. That's so that you can get used to what the exam is like and what my questions are going to be like. Since they are not direct memorization questions, they're going to be critical thinking and application based questions. And some people just aren't prepared for that, no matter how many times I give them examples or whatever. So now you're going to know, so that unit 2 and 3 will be worth each of them 9% of your grade, each one. And then the final exam is worth 12% of your grade for the lecture. It is half comprehensive, half unit 4. And that's all multiple choice 100 questions for that one. The lab midterm is worth 7% of your grade, again, to let you get an idea what lab midterm is going to be like. Whereas the lab final, it's semi-comprehensive as well. So 50 questions, but it's worth 10% of your grade. So a lot of your grade, 53% altogether, will be exams. This is because in my class, I expect you to learn this material and be able to apply it, and critical thinking and analyze and things like that in this material. I don't expect you to just memorize and regurgitate and just take quizzes and then get an A in my class. Like, you have to show me that you've retained this information and you can apply it. So this is a 2000 level class. I expect you to do 2000 level work. And so some of you guys might have a little bit of difficulty kind of rising to that bar. That's okay. I'm here to help you every step of the way. And that's why we have the quizzes and the Kahoots and the projects to help keep you on the ball with studying and to keep you on task and make sure you're not falling too far behind so it becomes too overwhelming. And that's all of that. So that's the basics of it. And so I want to just be sure that you guys were well oriented with the course when you came into it. So if you have any questions about the course before we get started, that's the best time to ask. And I'm here to help you every step of the way after that. If you have any questions about it, just let me know. Just send me an email through Canvas or lauren.yost@okstate.edu. I'm your professor. I'm here to help. I want you to succeed. I will do everything I can to help you succeed. You just have to be willing to do the work behind it. So good luck with this semester, and I can't wait to meet you all.